Hi, this is Olga from hberry.com. Today I want to show you how to use a seam ripper. Do you know how to use a seam ripper? I bet you think you do, right? We all are much more familiar with this than we would like to be. As for me, I may have earned a master's degree in seam ripping. Even now, after 30 years of sewing, I still make mistakes and need to correct them. So, this is the table of content for today's video. What is the best seam ripper? I will show you my magic eraser seam ripper, different methods of seam ripping, how to use a seam ripper for different fabrics, for example silk, fur, lace, how to unpick 4-thread overlock stitching with a seam ripper, how to remove cover stitch hem, and how to use a seam ripper for cutting buttonholes.
I would like to show you this very interesting seam ripper called seam fix. It's not a common seam ripper, you will see. The ripping process is regular. Hold your fabric tight and just slide the part with the red ball under the stitches you want to remove. Carefully push the seam ripper through the seam and the blade will cut the thread easily. You see that ripping is quite easy and fast. If you are using it this way, you don't have to worry about ripping your fabric. Now we are left with many tiny pieces of thread. Before I spent so much time picking those little threads, but now I have this yellow rubber tip. It's awesome. This seam ripper has a thread eraser. I never knew such a thing existed until I bought this. I just rub the eraser over the fabric and voila, no more picking cut pieces of thread. This is especially useful when you have to rip long seams or decorative stitches. Here is a stitch I made with my overcast foot. The needle was going to and back a few times, so there are plenty of stitches to be ripped. Not a problem. The seam ripper is a good tool to break the thread. But now you can see million pieces of this green thread. Picking them by hand is a tedious work. But with my magic eraser, I will get rid of them in a few minutes. See, now threads are almost gone. So, did you know about this kind of seam rippers? Seam rippers can be used successfully even if you already pressed seams open. It's even faster to rip this kind of seams. Now let me show you how to use the seam ripper for different fabrics. In all available tutorials, they just show you how to rip seams on medium and heavyweight cotton. But what if you need to rip 100% silk fabric, or lace, or velvet and fur, and how do you rip hems? Here I have 100% silk fabric I used to make silk pillowcases. The fabric is very soft and slippery, and I can try to use the seam ripper the regular way. Nope, it just doesn't go. Let's use another way to do it. I just cut with my seam ripper every third or fourth stitch on one side of the fabric. After that, I just pull out the thread from the other side of the fabric. And now I brush the magic eraser tip of the seam ripper across the fabric to get rid of bits of threads. But unfortunately, not all silk fabrics can be ripped that easily. Sometimes, if the sewing thread is stronger or thicker than the fabric, you can break the fibers and make holes in the fabric. So I would advise you not to rip stitches if you are using silk chiffon, silk habotai, georgette, organza. The next way of ripping is suitable for fur and velvet. These fabrics cannot be ripped the regular way with the seam ripper because we are going to cut the fabric pile. Let me show you how to rip the seam on this pink fur fabric. Count 4-5 stitches without cutting them. Slide the tip of the seam ripper under the 6th stitch and cut it. Pull the thread and take the thread out of the seam. Turn the fabric and repeat the process on the other side of the seam until you remove everything. What is the good way to rip the lace fabric? I usually try to pull the thread a little, like for making gathers, and cut the thread at the other end of gathers. Sometimes it's quite long, so a big piece of the thread can be taken out from the seam quite easily. I turn the fabric and repeat the process on the other side of the seam. Now let's rip the hem on this silk shantung fabric. I'm not sure why, but the regular way to rip stitches with a seam ripper doesn't work for silk. So I rip it like this. I pick out a few centimeters of stitches without cutting. After that, I pull the thread like for making gathers in the fabric and cut the thread at the other end of the gathers. This thread can be easily taken out. Now I have a long piece of thread on the other side of the fabric, and I do the same to take it out. Did you ever try to rip serge stitches? I mean overlock stitches sewn by a serger. Here I have a 4-thread overlock stitch made with 2 needles. You can see these loops, and here there are 2 rows of needle threads. The easiest way to remove serger stitches is to cut these needle threads. So first thing to do is to break these 2 needle threads between the loops with the tip of your seam ripper. Repeat these cuttings every 3-4 stitches and remove those cut threads. Once you remove those needle threads, the looper threads will just fall away. If you need to remove serger stitches from 3-thread overlock stitch, you will do it the same way, except you would only have 1 needle thread to cut. The other way to do it, and maybe the easiest way, pick out a few centimeters of stitches without cutting the thread from the beginning. Then pull this thread a little, like for making gathers in the fabric, and cut the thread at the other end of the seam. Take the thread out from the seam. Sometimes it's coming out quite easily. And do the same with the second needle thread. And after that, the looper threads will again just fall away. Now, let me show you how to remove cover stitching. Do you know what is cover stitching? It is a stretchable seam finish used mostly for knit garments. On the right side of the fabric there are usually 2 rows of straight stitches, and on the wrong side of the fabric there are loops. So first cut both needle threads at one point, and next cut them again in about 5-6 stitches. and remove the threads. If you turn the fabric over on the other side, you will see that the loops got undone. Pull the threads from the loops and identify the direction that you should be further pulling threads from to undo the whole cover stitch. You will see that the looper threads will easily go in one direction, but will not go in the other direction at all. After you pulled a few inches of looper threads easily, they may get stuck at some point, especially if a woolly nylon thread was used like I have here. In this case, just stretch the fabric a little bit and the threads will be released again so you can continue to undo the stitch. Once you have removed the looper thread, the two needle threads can be easily pulled off the fabric also. How else we can use the seam ripper? We can easily cut buttonholes with it. Before cutting, insert a pin to each side of the buttonhole. This will prevent you from cutting too much through the threads at the end of the buttonhole. So, pierce the fabric between stitches in the middle of the buttonhole with a seam ripper. Cut the fabric inside of the buttonhole from the center to one end and then again from the center to the other end. And you will need to trim the buttonhole with sharp scissors afterwards. I use my seam ripper for cutting itchy clothing labels also. If you are wondering how to remove tags from cloth, check out this video clip. You have to do it very carefully so you don't make any holes in your cloth. A small mistake and you can ruin your garment. Slowly cut each stitch holding the tag to the garment. Sometimes the tags are sewn with very strong threads and with a few rows of stitching, so removing them is not that easy.
Thanks for watching. I hope this video was useful for you. Check out my other sewing tutorials on my blog hbury.com and here on my YouTube channel. Please like, share and comment on my videos and subscribe to my channel.